اسمح لك.
جاهزة؟
Yeah. Let me know when we're good.
We're live now.
احكي. ها راح تبدي صورتي انا، اسمح لي اشوفك بالزاويه. من راح ابدي احكي اروح لاخر شيء. يعني شلون يعني انت من جهتك راح تمشي من هنا تاخذ اخر شيء راح يصير صورتي انا كبيره بس.
We're live. We can start.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to do a live talk show with Sheikh Khaled Jamil straight from Karbala and the Shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And we're starting today as the series of going forward every Sunday, 4 p.m. We're going to be doing this to discuss many, many important topics of facing the youth in America, especially New Jersey, Tri-State, and all over the West. And this is a very beautiful and very important day because we're connecting the youth here and the Muslims here in the West with the house of the Shrine of Imam to answer our questions, face us today. So I would like to introduce, so we're going to do the talk show today. I would also like to give my condolences on the martyrdom
ما قاعد اسمع.
العالمين Sayyida Fatima Zahra.
لا ما اقدر قاعد نصور. عفوا قاعد اصور.
And now I'd like to introduce Sheikh Khaled Jamil, who would start off, and he's going to talk about. So Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Sayyida. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. So today, it's the martyrdom Sayyida Fatima Zahra, and we would like to first of all talk a bit about her, and also talk about the topic of Tawheed and how she expressed Tawheed in her life and the importance of Tawheed itself. I feel like the most important thing that we have to know is Tawheed and it's number one usul ad-din. So if you can elaborate more on this, Jazakallah, Sheikh.
Sayyid Ali?
Yes.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Beneficent, all prayer and praise is due to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Seeing is that this is going to be a series of episodes, inshallah, and that today is so happened to be that the martyrdom of Sayyida Fatima sallallahu wa sallam alayha. While speaking with you guys, we came up with the concept of Tawheed. Now, one would say, why exactly that? And the answer is rather clear. In fact, I don't think it's a question that even needs to be answered. Tawheed is the most important thing. It is the concept that Islam came up with. Islam, not just the religion of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, rather Islam as in the religion of Allah. Allah in the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and whoever takes other than Islam as a religion, it shall not be accepted from him. Previous episodes, for those of us that have joined us on other channels and in other lectures, they see that I always focus with Tawheed. So if some of the information is repeated, forgive us, inshallah. The more repetition there is, the more benefit there will be. Now, when speaking about Sayyida Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, the Prophet says, Fatimatum bid'atun minni. Fatima is a part of me. She is an integral portion of me. She is a part of me, sorry. She is a portion of my being. Now, spiritually and physically, let's be clear about that. She is physically his daughter, and spiritually, she is his lineage and his descendants in spirit and in ideology. Sayyida Fatima salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, in fact, all of the Ahlul Bayt, whenever they give a sermon or a speech, they always begin with the concept of Tawheed. Sayyidina, you're with me, right? I'd like some feedback. As we said, this is going to be a dialogue, not a monologue.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree. You know, Tawheed, I feel like if you don't have your faith strong in Tawheed itself, and not just Tawheed, knowing there's one God, you know, there's a difference between knowing and understanding. And if you can elaborate more on that, like, you know, the difference between just knowing there's one God and then truly understanding that there is one God. I feel like there's a big difference, and that's very important to know, and changes a lot of people's how they look at that question.
Ahsantum. Absolutely. You know what? Before we get to that point, if you can give me permission to touch up on the actual part of the lecture that I'd like to focus on.
Of course, Sheikh. Now.
Barakallah fikum. So, Sayyida Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, she says, and I bear witness that there is no God, that there is no deity worthy of worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Then she says, He, the Almighty, is unique and unparalleled in that. لا شريك له, unique and unparalleled. Certainly, the interpretation and the result of this witness, of this shahada, of monotheism is sincerity. That sincerity is witness to the interpretation, or its interpretation comes through that. What is she saying here? كلمة جعل الإخلاص تأويلها. Meaning, if you want to interpret this shahada that we call kalimatu shahada, you can only do so through actual interpretation, through actual witness. Sincerity in its witness. Then she says, صلوات الله وسلامه عليها, وضمن القلوب موصولها. And Allah has placed within the heart its comprehension. Meaning what? Meaning that this shahada, this testimony to the Almighty, is something that cannot be simply understood logically. It's not something for you to simply add numbers and try, as some say, that, you know what, this is the word, this is the language of the universe. Numbers and math is the language of the universe. You cannot understand Allah in that sense. And that's something, Sayyidina, please put a pin in that. That's something we'll come back and answer. Why is it we cannot answer the concept of Tawheed through numbers only? You know, we can allude to it, but we cannot, or we can point at it, but we cannot answer it completely. She says then, وَأَنَارَ فِي التَّفَكُّرِ مَعْقُولَهَا. And Allah has illuminated the heart through its understanding. Then she continues, الممتنع عن الأبصار رؤيته. He who cannot be perceived by sight. ومن الألسن صفته. ومن الألسن صفته. Meaning that he cannot be described by the tongue. He cannot be described by the tongue. ومن الأوهام كيفيته. Nor can he be imagined through your imagination, through your perception in any way. Now, the question that you put forth, which was the difference between, or the understanding of Tawheed and its acknowledgement, is what you were trying to say, if I'm not mistaken, Sayyidina.
Yes.
Now, to that effect, you know, I lost track of time. I hope that you're keeping track of time, Sayyid. To that effect, we will refer to the Prophet. Now, some will say, hold on. Let's go to the Quran first. And I say, absolutely. First and foremost, we go to the Quran. But we have to understand that the Quran came with its interpretation and its interpreter and its messenger. And all of those is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the one who says, أُوتِيتُ بِالْقُرْآنِ وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ. I was given the Quran and an equal to it, which is the Sunnah of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. They are the ones that explain to us what we do not understand in the Quran. We all know of Surah Al-Ikhlas, don't we? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. This Surah Al-Ikhlas sums up our monotheology completely. It's no longer left up to interpretation. It's no longer left up to someone else to come later on in time and insert into it or remove from it. However, there is elaboration on that understanding. What is that elaboration? A man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, teach me the strangest of knowledge. The Prophet looked at him, he says, and what have you done with the foremost of knowledge in order for you to ask about the strangest of knowledge? The man said, Ya Rasulullah, and what is the foremost of knowledge? The Prophet says, Ma'rifatullah haqqa ma'rifatih. The acknowledgement of Allah, knowing Allah truly and acknowledging Him. That's one. A man came to one of our Imams, our blessed Imams. I believe it was Imam al-Sadiq. However, we'll just say the Imam because I'm rather uncertain at this moment if it was Imam al-Sadiq. The man came to the Imam and he said to him, and I always narrate this because it has a very strong effect if you think about it. If you sit there and you think about this hadith, it will lead you to more and more understanding, to the importance of Tawheed. The man came to the Imam. The man is from Khurasan, modern day Iran. He came to the Imam and he said to him, and he sat next to the Imam. The Imam turned to him and he says, where are you from, brother? The man looks at the Imam. Excuse me. The man looks at the Imam and he says to the Imam, I am from your Shia from Khurasan. The Imam looks at him and he says, and what kind of Shia are you? From what type of our Shia are you? The man says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, how many types are there? The Imam says there are 3 types. There is the first who love us publicly but not secretly. There is the second who love us secretly but not publicly. And there are those who love us publicly and secretly. Now, I would imagine, just like I would and anybody else would, most of us would say that, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I'm from the third type. I love you both publicly and secretly, especially during that time when there was a lot of taqiyya. People feared for their life if they were Shia. Not like this day and age where we are relaxed in comparison, where we can sit here next to the shrine of Imam Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, and we can say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. In the past, that was not an issue. In the past, we could not do that, brothers and sisters. Keep that in mind. In the past, our forefathers, they had to hide. They had to hide their identity. They had to hide who they were. They had to hide what they were. Brothers and sisters, that is extremely important to keep in mind. Imagine people used to be killed, used to be put to the sword, simply for saying that Ali is Khalifa of the Khulafa, that Ali is Waliullah, that Ali is a rightful Khalifa, that Ali ibn Abi Talib is the rightful Khalifa, that Imam Hussein was martyred. Nonetheless, this man says to the Imam, I'm from the third type. The Imam says, you're from the third type, but those individuals. The man says, and what are those signs, Ibn Rasulullah? First of all, brothers and sisters, listen. The Imam says they have signs, plural, not just one sign, multiple signs. Then the Imam says, and those signs are Ma'rifatullah haqqa ma'rifatih, knowing and the acknowledgement of the Almighty. But the Prophet, but the Imam does not say the second and the third. He stops at that. Our scholars say in Arabic, when you say that there's a plural, that there's more than one reason, and you only give one, that means that that one is the one and foremost. Meaning what? Meaning that it's the first and second and third and the last. It's the foremost. Is that clear? Or do I need to explain that a bit more, Sayyidina?
No, that's clear.
That's clear. Now, that shows you the importance of the Tawheed. Sayyida Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. Sayyida Fatima, who was the daughter of the best of creation. Sayyida Fatima, who was called Al-Huriyyatul Al-Insiyya. She is from heaven and from earth. She was brought from a fruit of heaven, and she became an Insiyya on earth after she was given form. Sayyida Zahra, زهر الكون بنورها. She is the universe. She is the best of creation's daughter and only daughter for that fact. And only surviving son and child, by the way. As we all know, the Prophet had three sons: Ibrahim, Qasim, and Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. The third escapes my mind right now. Ibrahim, Qasim, and the third I just cannot remember for the life of me right now. And Sayyida Fatima Zahra. Now he had other daughters, but they were not his daughters. He raised them, who were the daughters actually of Khadija's sister. They were orphans that he raised. Nonetheless, she's his only surviving daughter.
I'm really glad you brought this up, because it's a lot of people do have the confusion that he did have more daughters other than Sayyida Fatima Zahra. So if that's something, and I feel like a lot of people do question. They say, why is Sayyida Fatima Zahra important if he had other daughters? What about them? So I think this is definitely really, really good that you mentioned this.
Absolutely. And this is something actually, even though we're going to veer off topic, it's something that we have to keep in mind. Brothers and sisters, I want to say something, and I hope this doesn't become politicized or anything like that. The fact of the matter is, brothers and sisters, we have our own take. We have our own history. We have our own scholars and everything that we have our own style and our own understanding and our own imams. Okay, brothers and sisters, we do not need to prove everything from our religion to anybody else. I don't need to refer to different schools of thoughts books to prove my point of view. I have infallibles. I have masumeens. You know what I'm saying, Sayyid? I don't need to constantly be in this defensive position where I need to prove every claim I have through the books of another. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, for example, let's take this issue, the issue of the daughters of the Prophet Muhammad. They can have their sources, and we have our sources. And even if they contradict, they do not change religion. They do not change Tawheed. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
They do not change the fact that the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad is from Fatima. They do not change the fact that Al-Kawthar is Fatima. They do not change the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the Mazlumiyya of Imam Hassan. What happened, the Mazlumiyya of Sayyida Fatima. They do not change Bakhin laka ya Ali. So that's just something I want to make very clear, brothers and sisters. We do not need to justify everything through the eyes of another, because the other doesn't give us that courtesy. Especially on a day like this, on a day when we are remembering the martyrdom of Sayyida Fatima. People ignore the fact that Sayyida Fatima and the oppression that she received and focus on where can you prove it in other individual sources. I don't need to prove it in your sources. It's proven in my sources. It's proven through my A'imma, through infallibles, whom you have no one that can match to their knowledge and their attributes. And brothers and sisters, sorry if I'm kind of getting loud and excited about this, or not excited. I shouldn't. That's not the right term to use. But that's the fact of the matter is, I don't need to prove everything from someone else's sources. I have my own sources. Yes, if there are issues, for example, the concept of Tawheed, yeah, that I can prove to you from your sources. In fact, almost everything we have, we can prove from the other sources. My thing is I'm saying that we don't have to, we don't need to. Be happy with what you have, learn what you have. After you have learned what you have, talk to someone else about it. Brothers and sisters, going back, as we say, going back, we have been the oppressed minority for 1400 years. 1400 years. We have been the oppressed minority. And the time where the individual says, "When? So what? What if Fatima is in the house?" That is enough. I don't need to go into much more details. If I am a true believer, I don't need more details than that. The Prophet says, Allah loves who loves Fatima. And Allah is pleased with whoever Fatima is pleased with. And Allah disapproves and is unpleased with whoever Fatima is unpleased with. That's it, enough. I don't need to go, well, is the fact, did she get squished behind the door? Was there a nail in the door? Was her earring pulled off, ripped off? Was she struck? All of those details are irrelevant after the individual has the audacity to stand and say, when? Enough, that is enough. The fact that he had audacity to say when, to say the Fatima, whose Allah's acceptance is based upon her acceptance, is enough. You with me, Sayyid Ali?
Yes, Jazakallah, Sheikh. That's very important that you brought this up. And it's like a side topic, but real quickly, the reason I feel like a lot of people feel the need to, especially here in the West, growing up in a society where you see the majority or what is known as mainstream Islam here is the Sunni point of view, or from our brothers in Ahl Sunnah, it shows that some Shia have the need to defend themselves from those books. And it's really, really good that you brought that up and mentioned that fact, because we don't need to defend ourselves from anyone else's books. Our point of view is enough. And our sources are from the Imams themselves, like the sources that we have are enough for us. I feel like it's a struggle mainly for youth, especially living in America, especially in colleges, dealing with like the Muslim Sunni associations, being majority Sunni, or majority of Muslims in America being Sunni itself. So I feel like the Shia struggle here more, having a need to sort of defend themselves, or they think they have to defend themselves, not realizing that they really don't. And I just feel like it's the trap that they fall into.
Absolutely. Listen, why do we have to defend? You know what? As a matter of fact, not about a few moments ago, I was sitting here at the shrine of Imam Hussein, and someone came to me expecting me to defend the position of Imam Ali and why Imam Ali fought against Muawiyah. Honestly, I don't even know how, flabbergasted. I don't even know what to say. I was shocked. Ali ibn Abi Talib. I need to defend Ali ibn Abi Talib's position. Ali ibn Abi Talib. I need to defend his position. You should defend Muawiyah's position. Muawiyah is one of the tulaqa. Ali ibn Abi Talib is the first individual in Islam. Ali ibn Abi Talib's hand was raised in Ghadir Khum. Muawiyah, subhanallah. On the one hand, the Prophet raises the hand of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he says, "Man kuntu mawla, fahada Ali mawla." And on the other hand, the Prophet says, "La ashba Allahu batnah." May Allah never fill his stomach. And I have to defend the one that the Prophet says, "Man kuntu mawla, fahada Ali mawla." I have to defend Fatima, the one who the Prophet would stand at her door for 6 months every single morning before the Salatul Subh. And he would knock on the door and he would say, Ya Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwwah, oh the house of the Prophet, oh the family of the Prophet, do you give permission to Muhammad to enter your house? Allah in the Quran says that the Prophet has greater authority. He has authority, dominion over you than you do your own self. If the Prophet wanted to, he can push the door open, and she's his daughter, and this is his house, and his brother-in-law, and his heir. However, she says, Ya Rasulullah, why do you knock? This is your house, and I am your daughter. He says, Oh Fatima, oh my daughter, Allah has commanded me. Allah commanded me to knock on your door.
MashaAllah.
Allah commanded me. I'm not doing this because I want to do it. This is a command, very similar to the command, Ya ayyuhal Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayk. O Messenger of God, balligh, do tabligh, announce what has been descendant upon you. And if you do not do so, then you have not done tabligh of his risalah. You have not announced his message. Then the Allahu ya'simuka min al-nas. And Allah shall protect you from the people. Who are those people that during the last days of the Prophet Muhammad, Allah tells the Prophet Muhammad, don't worry, we will protect you from those individuals. Nonetheless, I don't want to stir, anything up. All I want to say is, brothers and sisters, be content with what you have. Study what you have and compare it to the others. And if you do not find it fitting, call me. In all honesty, if you have an issue, call, ask. We have a plethora of scholars, multiple scholars. I don't consider myself a scholar because I'm not, but I'm saying we are not. But we don't have any lacking in this department, in the department of knowledge. Alhamdulillah. Nonetheless, Sayyidina, I'm sorry, I kind of veered off topic here. Let's get back to the topic of Tawheed, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Now, the Sayyida Salamullahi alayha, after identifying, she says that Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharik. Excuse me, la sharika la. I bear witness that there is only one God, and no other God but Him, and that there is nothing like Him, no other God like Him. Then she says, she gives certain attributes, and then she says, al-mumtana', he who cannot be perceived through sight. Here, what does she start doing? She starts giving attributes of the Almighty. First one, she says, he cannot be seen through sight. Then she says, he cannot be described through your tongue. And lastly, she says, and he cannot be imagined through your imagination or perception. The one claim that the Shia make, and the one claim that has not been broken, is the concept of tanaqud. We claim that the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi and his family, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein, and Amir al-Mu'mineen, those five and their lineage, التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين, the 9 offsprings of Imam Hussein. For those who are not Shia that are tuning in, those individuals being Ali ibn al-Hussein Zayn al-Abidin, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir, Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim, Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad, Ali ibn Muhammad al-Hadi, Al-Hasan ibn Ali al-Askari wal-Hujjat al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu. These individuals, our claim is that there is no contradiction within their words, that they are one light descendant through the ages. Now, don't think that I'm trying to say that this is reincarnation. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they all go back to the one source, which is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi. In fact, there's in certain narrations where a man comes to the Imam and he asks him where he gets this knowledge from. The Imam, he says, we inherit the knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad the way that you people inherit gold and silver.
MashaAllah.
Sayyidina, imagine, your biggest inheritance is the knowledge of your father. That is what you look forward to. You're not looking forward to the Mercedes or the Bugatti or whatever cars there are that come to mind. Those are the only two that come to mind, honestly. So you're not looking at wealth, you're looking at knowledge. They inherit the knowledge the way me and you inherit a house or inherit cars or money. Nonetheless, that's our claim to fame. In fact, just like how the Quran interprets the Quran, the Ahlul Bayt's words interpret the Ahlul Bayt's words. What does that mean? That you can take one word from one Imam and take the second word from a different Imam, and you can see the similarities and the details that were not in the first one. We'll take this for example. Excuse me. Excuse me, I apologize for that. So, Sayyida Fatima, she says Allah cannot be perceived by sight, nor can He be described through your tongue, nor can He be imagined through your imagination and perception. When we look at Ali ibn Abi Talib, bi Abi wa Ummi, as we call him, the master of Muwahhideen, the Lord of Muwahhideen. Of course, Lord in the sense of master, and in the sense of, you know, the Lord of the house, the Lord of the manor, not in the sense of God, astaghfirullah. The Imam, what does he say in his first lecture? He says the foremost in religion is the acknowledgement of the Almighty. And the perfection of that acknowledgement is to testify, is testifying him. Afwan. Sorry, excuse me 1 second, Sayyidina. Assalamu alaikum. And the perfection of acknowledging him is to testify his existence, to testify the shahada for him. And the perfection of testifying him is to believe in his oneness. And the perfection of the belief in his oneness is to regard him pure. Now, again, I realize that you guys are saying, hold on, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm passing through this for a reason, because each of this needs a lecture on its own. Okay? I'm trying to get, in fact, you know what, I'll skip everything and I'll get to the last part. Is that okay with you, Sayyid?
Yes, that's perfectly fine, Sheikh. No.
Okay. The Imam says, he says, and his one, and the perfection of the belief in his oneness is to regard him pure. And the perfection of his purity is to deny him attributes. Is to deny him attributes. Why? For every attribute is a proof that it is different from that which is being attributed to. What does that mean, Sayyida? What does that mean? That for every attribute, the attribute is different than he who is being attributed to. Let's take this example. We say right now, Sayyid Ali is smart. That word smart is an attribute of Sayyid Ali, correct? Is Sayyid Ali different than smart or not? Meaning what? Meaning, is there something that walks on earth with us that is felt that we can call smart?
No.
No. In its purest form, absolutely not. Rather, it's an understanding, a concept that we have in our mind, right? That we apply generally and sometimes, and with a grain of salt at other times, right? In your sense, it's absolute. Inshallah, not absolutely absolute, but it's true. You know. However, it is at different levels. Meaning what? Meaning that you're smart, I'm smart, and Einstein is smart. Obviously, Einstein is smarter than both of us, right? But we still use the same term to describe both. That itself
Sheikh, now we seem to be having some interference with the connection, but in the meantime, I'll ask if anyone that's watching this live right now has any questions. You can ask whatever you'd like to ask right now, and we'll answer them live for you right now until the Sheikh's connection gets back. So you can just chat them in the YouTube if you want. Any questions regarding Tawheed, Sayyida Fatima Zahra, or just any general question, so if you want.
So I think Sheikh's just dropped off, and
yes.
I'll say that. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. For some reason not for some reason, the internet cut out. So where did you guys hear last? Where did we end?
It cut off right before you were going into the description of why, like, this definition of smart is different from the person itself.
We've been on the.
Sheikh, hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying it was right before you were going into how the description of smart is different from the person itself. It's not an actual being on earth. You know, it's just something how we perceive someone as through our perception.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So basically, I'll sum it up because we're running out of time. I don't think we have much more time left. How much time do we have left for the lecture, Sayyidina?
We're gonna end by 4:45. So
About 5 minutes.
yeah. So
Can you ask Sheikh to flip his phone because it's upside down right now on this screen?
yeah, Sheikh, now can you just flip the screen?
I'm sorry. Flip the screen.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I-
Also, in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, please share them on the YouTube and ask them. Feel free to ask any questions.
بعد. قلبها أمين قطع النت فصل النت أمين سيد علي.
Yes, much better. Actually, no, it's still sideways here, but yeah, now it's good.
Can hear you if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Let me know.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so Sayyid, I don't want to take too much time in this. We can continue this later on. However, tonight is a night of tragedy or mourning. So we'll stop with this. Well, basically, all we'll say is that the attribute is different than that being attributed to, right? You being a smart individual is different from the actual concept of smartness. Of intelligence. And he himself that we are attributing to him. Is that clear?
Yes, very clear.
Oh, inshallah, we'll end if you give us permission to continue with the musiba, inshallah, Sayyidina.
Yes, of course. Please begin the musiba, you know. We'll end it here. If anyone has any questions, please type them now, or else, you know, Sheikh now will continue with the musiba of Sayyida Fatima Zahra alayhi salam.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why started to drop sisters. The matter is the word wa'in enough. We don't need more than the details. If you want to go to the other side, something is my soul that is in front of me and that is between my arms. They say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Fatima used to, that when Fatima once, as she was walking out of her room, she tripped. They say the Prophet ran to catch her, but he knew that. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My question to any individual who sees themselves as a fair individual. Sayyidina, are you with me right now?
Yes, Sheikh. Now.
My question to you, Sayyid Ali, if the Prophet was standing there when the individuals came to the house of Fatima, would he allow them to bring the firewood? Would he allow them to say when? Or would he stand in front of them? Would he denounce this action?
I think that anyone with common sense will understand that a man and what daughter means to a father, especially one who says that, you know, Fatima is a part of me. And not only a part of me, he says she is the mother of her father. A status that, think about the status of your mother. She has the status of a daughter and a mother to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, I can't even answer that question.
Sayyidina, in the narrations, we have a certain narration. Fatima, can you hear me, Sayyid?
Yes.
Fatima is like Laylatul Qadr, the night of power.
Wow.
The Imam says we are the Hujjah of Allah over people, and our mother Fatima is the Hujjah of Allah over us. After the death of her father, she used to go every night to her father's grave. Every day, she would actually go in the morning and she would spend the whole day there by the grave of the Prophet. Then and she used to say, ماذا على من شم تربة أحمد ماذا على من شم تربة أحمد. What is with the individual who smells the soil of the Prophet Muhammad? May he never smell something different or something else or something better or something worse. Then she says, صبت علي مصائب. I have been showered with pains and tragedies. These tragedies and these pains have been poured over me. If they were to be poured on this earth, it would turn the days into night. Was my shadow. He was my protector. As for today I have to protect myself with my cloak. From the Dalil, I have to protect myself with my cloak. وَأَدْفَعُ ظَالِمِي بِرِدَائِي. And I have to push away my oppressor with my cloak. She used to sit by the Prophet's grave next to a tree. They came to that tree and they cut it down. Amir al-Mu'mineen, they came to Amir al-Mu'mineen, they said, Ya Ali, tell Fatima to either cry day or night. I can't hear Fatima cry both day and night. We have work to do. So Amir al-Mu'mineen built a little hut for her outside of the Medina. She used to take Hassan and Hussein and she used to go sit over there and cry over her father. However, after the tragedy, she could no longer make that journey. They say one day she woke up, she brushed Hassan and Hussein's hair and she sent them to the mosque. And she said to them, go to your father. She then turned to Asma. And she said, so what if I don't? Then know that I have left you and I have left to go see my father. Asma, she says, it wasn't but a few moments. And I called her. I said, Sayyida, Fatima, and she hears the door being knocked. She goes to the door, that door that was burned just a few days ago. She goes to that door, and Hassan and Hussein enter the home. Sayyidina, do you know the age of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein? Sayyid Ali, are you with me?
Yes, they were about 5 years old.
Sayyid Ali, Sayyida Fatima Ali. Salatu Salam had 4 kids, 5, and Kulthum was 4. Hassan, Hussein, Zainab, and Kulthum. Hassan and Hussein, 7 and 6 years old. They came to the house, they wanted to see their mother. Asma told them, she said, leave your mother for now. Leave your mother, let her rest. She's asleep and she's in pain. She says, it's okay. You might be hungry. Why don't you go eat? Imam Hassan looks at her and he says, Asma, what is wrong? What are you saying? When have you seen us eat without our mother? They say as they were talking, Imam Hassan moved around Asma and entered. When he entered, he saw Sayyida Fatima. So he called out, Akhi ya Hussein, Aba Abdullah, come to me. Come see your mother. She had passed. They say Imam Hassan was holding his mother, was hugging his mother by her neck. Imam Hussein was hugging his mother by her legs, by her feet. And he used to say, Kallimini, oh mother, speak to me. Speak to me, Ya Nur Aini. Speak to me. She didn't answer them, so they ran out. Imagine a 6 and a 7-year-old. Now multiply that by the prophecy. The sons of the prophet ran out, crying out. When the people saw them, they said to them, what is wrong? Did you remember your grandfather? They said, no, it wasn't my grandfather. Rather, our mother had just passed. In the most liberal of estimates, it's 90 days since the prophet passed away. So it's only been 3 months. They say when Ali ibn Abi Talib heard this, he fell. He couldn't stay anymore. He passed out. He fainted. He couldn't believe Fatima had gone. He got up. They say as he got up wanting to walk, his legs couldn't carry him. He fell back down until he made it to the house. Sayyidina, the distance between the Prophet's mosque and the house is but a few meters. It's not some great distance. It's not like you're walking 3 city blocks. You're walking a few meters, Sayyid. However, Ali ibn Abi Talib could not walk that distance straight. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he entered the house, he went to Fatima. He began preparing her. He had a specific will from Sayyida Fatima. First thing mentioned in that will is, Ya Ali, if you are going to bury me at night. I don't want anybody to be witness for my janazah. I don't want anybody to walk behind my coffin. I don't want anybody to know where I'm buried to come and do ziyarah, Ya Ali. Bury me in the darkness of night. That's why until today, nobody knows where Fatima is buried. The only daughter to the seal of the prophets, the final prophets, and nobody knows where she's buried. She says, Ya Ali, bury me at night. The second, she says, Ya Ali, when you prepare me, when you wash me over my cloak. Don't take my cloak off. Ya Ali, I am pure, and I have been purified by the Almighty. Sayyidina, we know Ali ibn Abi Talib as the warrior, the patient, the wise, the king of hearts, the king of souls, the king of spirits, the lord of war. The Asma narrates, he says, he was washing Fatima and I was giving him the water. She says, I saw him, he dropped the water and he went and he stood in the corner and he started weeping. I looked at him and I said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are the one that teaches us patience. He says, Asma, la talumini. Don't blame me. I couldn't handle it. She says, what is wrong? What happened? He says, Asma, as I was washing her, I felt one of her ribs and it had been broken. And I had no prior knowledge of her rib being broken. She didn't tell Amir al-Mu'mineen when her rib was broken. She didn't tell Amir al-Mu'mineen what happened. She didn't tell him what Qunfuz did to her or his master. Nonetheless, Amir al-Mu'mineen prepared her. In the narration, the Imam al-Sadiq, he says, Fatima alayhi salam, her ailment and the pain she was in left her looking like a shadow, left her frail, left her weak. As you can imagine, Sayyidina, the modern medicine didn't exist back then. So you can imagine what internal bleeding would do to you, what broken ribs, what a punctured lung would do. I'm not saying that's what she had, but you can imagine that when an individual gets sick, they can no longer eat. She became frail. She became, as the Imam describes her, like the shadow. And we call Ali قالع باب خيبر. You know that saying, correct?
Yes.
He's the one that removed the gates of Khaybar. They say when he wanted to carry her, he couldn't. He says, Ya Am, Ya Aba Dhar, a'inni ala hamliha. Oh, my uncle, Ya Aba Dhar, help me carry the coffin. I can't carry it by myself. Imagine Ali ibn Abi Talib could not carry Fatima, who was, how much could she weigh? No matter how much could she weigh, he couldn't carry her. He took her out, him and a few select individuals. Ammar ibn Yasir, Salman al-Muhammadi, al-Miqdad, Aba Dhar, and Hassan and Hussein. Halfway through the trip, he looks at them and he says, Insarifu, return. Then he looks at Aba Dhar and he says, Ya Am, Ya Aba Dhar, take Hassan and Hussein and return to the house and leave me by myself. He took her to her final resting place. He put her on the ground and he sat there. Sayyida Fatima Zahra took the Imam's heart with her when she left. After Fatima Zahra, the Imam was left lonely. He was all by his lonesome. After Fatima, just like after Khadija, how the Prophet was. After Fatima, Amir al-Mu'mineen had nobody that was at his level, at his stature. He literally lost his soul, his spirit partner, soul partner, soulmate, what you would call him. They say he sat there, he sat at the grave, and he says, "Oh my Prophet, Ya Rasulullah." He turned to the grave of the Prophet. He says, "Ya Rasulullah, the entrust that you have entrusted in with me, I have returned. However, Ya Rasulullah, ask her what happened to her eye. Why is her eye black and blue? Ya Rasulullah, ask her what happened to her shoulder. Why are there the whips, the slashes on her shoulder from the whips? Ya Rasulullah, ask her what happened to her rib. Ya Rasulullah, ask her what happened to Al-Muhsin." I did what I could. In the narration, they say the Prophet said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Ya Ali, this is what will happen to you after me. Ya Ali, after me will happen this and will happen that." And every time the Prophet asks him, he says, "Ya Ali, will you be patient?" The Imam says, "Yes, Ya Rasulullah," without hesitation. He said, "Ya Ali, some individuals will attack your house, Ya Ali. Will you be patient?" He says, "Yes, Ya Rasulullah." The Prophet says to him, "Ya Ali, will you be patient?" He says, "Yes, Ya Rasulullah." The Prophet then repeats it. He says, "Ya Ali, afatasbir, will you be patient?" He says, "Yes, Ya Rasulullah." The fourth time, the Prophet, he says, "Ya Ali, will you be patient even though Fatima gets struck?" They say Amir al-Mu'mineen could not answer this question right away. Rather, he lowered his eyes and he paused for a moment. He had to think about it. He had to see how could he be patient while Fatima is struck. He looked at him and he says, "Ya Rasulullah, will this be for the survival of Islam?" He says, "Yes, Ya Ali, this is for the survival of Islam." He says, "Ya Rasulullah, I will be patient." Therefore, brothers and sisters, when you sit here 1400 years ago, excuse me, remember that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was not patient out of cowardice and was not patient because he couldn't do anything. Ali ibn Abi Talib does not need to be identified for who he is. We know him full well. However, he was wasta. He was told of what he could and could not do. He was told he couldn't go further. Therefore, when the Prophet questioned him, honestly, this narration really hurts me because you can just simply imagine if you're in that position, and we cannot imagine, in all honesty. He says to him, "Ya Ali," and the Imam says, "I will be patient." When it comes to Fatima, he couldn't answer right away. He had to stop. He had to pause. This is the courage that Ali ibn Abi Talib has. Sometimes you're brave if you carry a sword, but sometimes you're brave if you do not carry the sword. I ask Allah بحق فاطمة وأبيه وبعلها وبنيها والتسع المعصومين من ذريتها أن يفرج عنا وأن يشفي مرضانا. Brothers and sisters, we need your dua. We have a Alawiyya here who is extremely sick. We have a brother in London who is losing a fighting battle with cancer, with brain cancer specifically. And I ask you to keep me and my
Can we
parents in
remember
your
Brother
dua.
Hassan
I am
Ali?
truly in need of your dua.
Can we pray for the brother Hassan Ali? He's fighting for his, in
Ya
COVID.
Allah. Ya Allah, brother Hassan Ali, inshallah, may Allah give him health and blessing, and may Allah give him what is best for him in this world and in the hereafter. You know, and I'm sorry to say this, I know this is hurtful, but sometimes the hereafter is the better choice for us. Sometimes Allah wants us for the hereafter. So I ask Allah to give him what is best suited for him so that he might be in the company of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, inshallah, and may he give him wealth and happiness and health in this world, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, we are here next to the Imam al-Hussein. And in our modern day, we only have one Imam left. During the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they had the Prophet Muhammad. They had Ali ibn Abi Talib. They had Hassan and Hussein. Throughout all of history, we've had more than one Imam at a time living together at the same time. However, the Imam was for one. However, in our modern day, for the past 1200 years, we've only had one Imam. And for 1200 years, this Imam could not be amongst us and with us. That's why you see all our poets, they always talk to him out of pain. They say, Sayyidi, how is it that you are so patient? How is it that you can carry on with this patient? One of the poets, Sayyid Haydar al-Hilli, he says to him, Matat tasabburu. Our patience has died. Our patience has died and is dying, waiting for you. Matat tasabburu bintidharika. We are waiting for you. Our patience has died waiting for you. What is it that will enrage you? What is it that will enrage you to come out? If you were patient for what happened to Hussein. Brothers and sisters, when we are here, I truly believe that the Imam must come to visit his forefathers on these nights, on the nights of the tragedies, on the days of the tragedy. And I ask Allah that if he is here with us tonight, that may Allah hasten his reappearance. May Allah hasten his reappearance, and may Allah guide us to him and through him, inshallah. اللهم بحق الحسين الوجيه وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه فرج عنا بحوائجنا شافي مرضانا إخواني من أوصاني الدعاء وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.